Hello students, welcome to Ayurveda. So today we are going to learn about the functions or karma of Pitta Dosh. So let's get started. So regarding the karma of Pitta Dosh, Acharya Charak in his text, which is Charak Sahita, in Sutrasthan he mentioned a shlok about the functions of Pitta Dosh, which goes like Darshanam Paktir Ushma Cha Shu Trushna Deha Mardavam Prabha Prasado Medha Cha Pitta Karma Vikarjam. So, Acharya Charak has mentioned that Pitta Dosh is responsible for all the following function, which includes Darshanam means vision capacity, Pakti means digestion, Rushma means Ushma, that means producing heat in the body, Shut means thirst, Shut, Shruti. Here, Shru means Shruti. It means hearing capacity. Trushna means thirst. Pitta is responsible for generating thirst in the body. Deha Mardavam means tissue pliability, or we can say softness of the body tissues or muscles. Then Prabha, that means a glow. Prasad, that means feeling of kindness or feeling of goodness. Medha is a mental capacity or mental intellect. Cha Pitta Karma Vikarajam. All these are included under the karma of Pitta Dosh. Now we'll see one by one each karma and how we can relate this karma with the modern science or modern correlations are of the karma of Pitta Dosh. So first one is Darshanam. Okay, the first one is Darshanam. Darshanam means dekhne ki shakti, that means vision capacity. It can be related with the optic functions. So how Pitta can help in the optic functions or for the function of vision? So we know that Pitta is the one dosh which is responsible for metabolism and all kinds of transformation in the body. So here also we get vision by the retinal metabolism, and the retinal metabolism is done by the retinal enzymes. So here Pitta can be correlated with that retinal enzymes which is responsible for retinal metabolism and by which we get the vision. So I hope I'm clear in this that how Pitta dosh is responsible for darshanam. And talking about specific Pitta dosh, that we have already discussed about 5 types of Pitta dosh in the previous lecture. So which of all the fives, which one Pitta dosh will be responsible for darshanam is the Alochak Pitta, which resides in the eyes. So by the Alochak Pitta, the retinal metabolism happens and it helps in the optic functions. Next one is Pakti. Okay, Pakti means digestion or Ahar ka Pachan. Again, we know that Pitta is responsible for metabolism. So by the metabolism power, it does the function of digestion. Here, the enzymatic breakdown of the ingested food occurs. Again, the action of enzymes can be compared with the Pitta, and Pitta can also be related with the gastric acid secretions. So HCl secreted in stomach can be Pitta. Pancreatic enzyme can also be considered as Pitta, and also the bile produced from the liver can be considered as Pitta. So all these enzymes or all these things that produced in the stomach, or these acids or bile, this all can be considered as Pitta because they all are responsible for the digestion of the ingested food. Okay, next one is the Ushma. By Ushma, it means thermogenesis, means sharir ka taap ya ushma dharan, means producing heat in the body. Thermogenesis also means that heat production in the body, and by modern correlation we can understood it by the cellular metabolism. Okay, how cellular metabolism can be compared with this? Because during cellular metabolism heat generated, so that again cellular metabolism, for that cellular metabolism Pitta dosh is responsible, as metabolism comes here, and the heat generated during that metabolism is important for the body. Okay, So that's how Pitta perform its function of Ushma, that is Sharir ka tap, Ushma dharan, or producing heat in the body. Next one is Shruti. Okay, next function is Shruti, that means Shravan Shakti or hearing capacity. So Pitta Dosh is also responsible for the auditory processing in the body. We can understand it with the process of the auditor, how the auditory processing happens in the body. So one thing you have to remember is that Pitta Dosh indirectly responsible for or indirectly helps in the auditory processing. It is not the primary dosh which is responsible for the hearing capacity. The primary dosh is the Vat dosh, and Pitta dosh secondarily supports or helps in the function of hearing. Okay, so how Pitta dosh helps, let's understand. First, okay, if we see the process of hearing, firstly the sound waves reach the cochlea. So sound waves when reach the cochlea, this is the function of Vat dosh. And after that, the hair cells of the cochlea converts this mechanical energy into the electrical impulse. Okay, what the cochlea's hair cell does, it converts the mechanical energy into the electrical impulse. So here we can see the function or the support of Pitta dosh. So here what is happening, there is a transformation. Okay, so here the Pitta enables this bioelectrical transformation through which this mechanical energy is converting into the electrical impulse. This transformation is happening due to the Pitta dosh. Okay, then after that, neurotransmitter released is specifically glutamate. So here also, for the release of the neurotransmitter, biochemical reactions and enzymatic actions of Pitta are necessary. So again, Pitta dosh is responsible for the release of the neurotransmitter. Then after that, the signals travel via the auditory nerve. So here, what the Pitta dosh does, it maintains the metabolic energy of the neurons so that it can travel via the auditory nerve. Then after that, in the auditory cortex of the temporal lobe, sound is analyzed, differentiated and interpreted. Here also Pitta dosh is responsible because Pitta dosh gives the clarity so that the sound waves or the signals that is coming, that can be analyzed, differentiated and then finally interpreted. So here specifically which Pitta is responsible is Sādhaka Pitta, because we know that Sādhaka Pitta, the sthan of Sādhaka Pitta, we have learned it in a previous lecture, that the sthan of Sādhaka Pitta is Hriday or Mastishka, we can say. So that's how the Pitta dosh along with Vat dosh does or helps in the function of hearing. So let's again revise it. Let me erase it first. Okay, so what happened, so how the process happens. So firstly, sound waves reach the cochlea. It is due to the Vat dosh. Then the cochlear hair cells transform that mechanical energy into the electrical impulse. This has happened due to Pitta dosh. Then neurotransmitter are released due to the biochemical reactions and enzymatic actions of Pitta. And then these signals travel via the auditory nerve. Again, for the traveling, the metabolic energy is given by Pitta dosh. Then at last, in the auditory cortex of the temporal lobe, sound is analyzed, differentiated and interpreted, which is done by the Sādhaka Pitta. Okay, so Pitta gives clarity for all these functions. This is the another function of Pitta, which is Medha. Medha function that is mentioned in the shlok is this, that what it does in the mind, it gives the clarity. Okay, so we have seen how Pitta performs darshanam, that means visionary functions. Then digestive functions, that is pakti. Ushma means thermoregulations in the body. and Shruti means hearing functions. Now moving forward, next function is Trishna, that means प्यास की अनुभूति, or in modern science we can correlate it with the hypothalamic osmoregulation. Okay, so we can understand it step by step how hypothalamic osmoregulation happens in the body and how Pitta dosh is responsible for this function. So firstly, when the salt increases in the body, okay, when the salt increases in the body, when the salt increases in the blood, it sends a signal to the posterior pituitary to release a hormone known as antidiuretic hormone or the ADH hormone. So when the salt increases in blood, ADH secretion occurs from the posterior pituitary, and this ADH absorbs the water from urine in the kidney, which makes the feeling of dehydration in the person's body and makes him thirsty. Okay, it goes for thirst generation. ADH absorbs water from urine and makes the person thirsty. This leads to the person drinking water, and then water increases in the blood, which sends the negative feedback to the posterior pituitary, and which leads to the stoppage of ADH secretion. Okay, so what is happening here? Firstly, salt is increasing in the body. Salt increases, then ADH secretion occurs because when salt increases in the blood, it sends a signal to the posterior pituitary to release ADH. Then ADH secreted, this ADH absorbs water from urine in the kidney and makes the person thirsty. The person drinks water, which in turn increases water in the blood, and then the ADH secretion stops. And after that, the urine become dilute because the water increases in the blood, the urine becomes dilute, and the normal process of urination occurs. So here, how we can understand the role of Pitta dosh? So we know that in all this process, the main factor which is responsible is the ADH hormone. So the pitta dosh can be partially compared with the ADH hormone based upon its function. It is not completely or directly compared with ADH because of so many different factors, but the one thing which is common in both of this is its function, because ADH regulates water balance and so is Pitta, because Pitta is also plays important role in Jal and Agni balance in the body. So that's why here we can understood the role of the Pitta in the third generation or in Trushna by modern correlation of hypothalamic osmoregulation. Next karma of Pitta is देह which means शरीर की मृदुता, स्निग्धता व लचीलेपन का भाव. So here देह means the tissue pliability or the softness of the tissues. What is exactly tissue pliability? It is the capacity of tissues to stretch or deform and regain their original form without any injury. This is tissue pliability, which we in easy language we can say the softness of the tissues of the body. So this tissue pliability is attained by proper hydration. When the skin is hydrated, when the tissues are properly hydrated, the tissue pliability occurs. So for the proper hydration, we have already seen that for proper hydration or for osmoregulation or third generation in the body, Pitta dosh is responsible. So here also tissue pliability, for proper tissue pliability, hydration is important, and for hydration Pitta dosh is important. And also Pitta dosh performs important function in collagen structure, because we know that Pitta dosh is responsible for all kinds of metabolism and collagen structures formed by the process of metabolism. So again, collagen structure formation is the function of Pitta dosh. Okay, okay. Now next function of Pitta is Prabha. Next function of Pitta is Prabha. Prabha means varna ya tvacha ki abha. That means skin glow or dermal health. Here specifically Bhrajak Pitta is responsible, because we have learnt in the previous lecture that the Bhrajak Pitta lies in the skin or is resides in the skin. So it's obvious that these Bhrajak Pitta is responsible for the skin glow or the dermal health. Okay. So how exactly the pitta works? So how we can compare it with the modern correlation is the cutaneous enzymes present in the skin, or the local metabolism processes, or we can say microcirculations through which the dermal health is maintained. And also melanocytes activities include skin color, UV protection, and also antioxidant defense. So all these activities of melanocytes are metabolic, enzymatic, and also heat related processes. So we know that metabolic, enzymatic, and heat related processes are all the core domain of Pitta Dosh. Pitta Dosh is responsible for all the metabolic or enzymatic activities in the body. So it is responsible for maintaining the dermal health by its metabolic activities, by the cutaneous enzymes. We can compare the cutaneous enzymes or local metabolism processes with the Pitta Dosh, and also melanocytes metabolism or melanocytes activities with the Pitta Dosh. Next one is prasad. What is prasad? It means इंद्रिय, मन व आत्मा की प्रसन्नता और स्वच्छता. So we can understand it one by one. Firstly is indriya. Indriya means sensory organs. All the sensory organs are considered as indriya. So we know we have already learned about the sensory functions of Pitta Dosh. Pitta Dosh is responsible for vision. Pitta Dosh is responsible for hearing, and Pitta Dosh is also helps in the dermal health. Okay, so it helps in the function of three sensory organ. First is eyes or visionary function, second is ears or hearing capacity or hearing functions, and third is maintaining dermal health. So efficient phototransduction, okay, efficient phototransduction is done by Alochaka Pitta. We know that Alochaka Pitta lies or resides in the eyes, and it is responsible for efficient phototransduction or efficient vision power, vision capacity. What is phototransduction? You need to understand it first. So, phototransduction is the biochemical processes by which the light energy is converted into the electrical signals in the rods and cones of the retina. We know in retina rods and cones are present. So the biochemical process through which the light energy which is coming to the eyes is converted into the electrical signals by the rods and cones and then sends to the brain. This is the process of phototransduction, and for this Alochak Pitta is responsible, or Alochak Pitta is necessary. Second sensory function is the dermal health, maintaining dermal health. So normal melanocytes and cutaneous enzymes activity done by Bhrajak Pitta. Okay, normal melanocytes or cutaneous enzymes activity done by Bhrajak Pitta. And as we have already discussed about it, how Bhrajak Pitta helps in maintaining the normal melanocytes and cutaneous enzymes. Third one is the clear sensory signal processing. So Pitta is responsible for clarity in the mind or clear sensory signal processing. Here it can be related with the neurotransmitters. I'll explain it further how the neurotransmitter and Pitta can be compared. Then the next function is man. It also responsible for prasannata of man and atma. So it relates to the mental functions. So intellect and emotions is maintained or is regulated by the Pitta Dosh. Here we are talking about Sādhaka Pitta, which resides in Hriday or Mastishtaka. It can be correlated with the modern science as neurotransmitter synthesis. So Pitta Dosh is responsible for balanced neurotransmitter synthesis. How? Let's understand it. So neurotransmitters are the chemical messengers that between the neurons that transmits nerve impulse or signals across a synapse to another neuron, as we can appreciate here in this picture. So this is the first neuron, this is the second neuron. Okay, and this portion, the end points of the neuron, we can see these are the synapse of the neuron. This small, okay, you can see this small portion which you can see here. These are the synapse of the neuron, and the neurotransmitter released. These are the communications between these synapse, are the communication between or connection between the two neurons, and the neurotransmitters are released and received by the synapse uh, of one neuron to the another neuron. So this is the neurotransmitter which are being released, and these are the signals or nerve impulses across a synapse, across a synapse to another neuron, which goes to the another neuron. So pitta helps in the synthesis of these neurotransmitters. How? By its enzymatic and metabolic activities. Pitta, by its enzymatic and metabolic activities, helps in the synthesis of neurotransmitter, and these neurotransmitters are the chemical messengers which goes from one neuron, to the other neuron through this synaptic activity or through this synaptic communications. Okay, so pitta gives mental clarity by proper regulation of neurotransmitter. Pitta also helps in the regulation of neurotransmitter. It helps in the synthesis as well as regulation of the neurotransmitters. So that's how it performs its mental functions, or indriya or man ki prasannata it gives. And pitta is also responsible for mental clarity, again by the proper synthesis and proper regulation of neurotransmitters. It performs its mental functions and gives mental clarity. The last function is medha. Again the same thing that we have already discussed, the synthesis of neurotransmitters. When the proper synthesis of neurotransmitter and proper regulation of neurotransmitter occurs, all the mental functions or cognitive functions, memory, learning, everything happens normally in the body. So pitta dosh is very much responsible for all these functions. Smruti ev bodhik kshamata, cognitive functions, memory and learning is also dependent on pitta, because again neurotransmitter, it is responsible for synthesis and regulation of neurotransmitters. I hope you understood all these functions of pitta with proper their modern correlation. Moving forward, now we'll see the second shlok of Acharya Charak from Charak Sahita Sutrasthan, which goes like Agnirev Sharire, okay, Agnirev Sharire Pitta Antargatah Kupit Akupit Shubh Ashubani Karoti Tadyata Paktim Apaktim Darshanam Adarshanam Matra Matratvam Ushmanam Prakrutir Vikrutir Varne Shaurya Bhayam Krodham Harsham Moham Prasadam Ittevamādīnām ca aparani dvandani iti. So this shlok says that pitta dosh is the dosh which is responsible for two opposites or pair of functions. Okay, one is normal and one is diseased. The pair of function is done by pitta only, first in a normal state and second in an abnormal state. Okay, so what the first line says is Agnireva ev sharire pitta antargat, means शरीर में स्थित अग्नि पित्त का ही एक अंग है, जो कि पाचन एवं चयापचय की शक्ति जिसे बोला गया है. That means that the heat of pitta or the fire inside the pitta, which is responsible for all kind of metabolism and transformation, is resides only in pitta, and it is a part of inherent part of pitta. So it performs functions like कुपित अकुपित, means विकृत अवस्था में या सामान्य अवस्था में शुभ एवं अशुभ कार्य करता है. कुपित अकुपित functions of pitta dosh is that it performs normal functions in its normal state and abnormal functions in its disease state, or when the pitta dosh is increased or decreased in the body, then it performs the function that will cause or produce a disease state in the body. For examples, which are the functions? performed by Pitta Dosh, which are in pairs, that is normal in normal state and produces disease in its abnormal state, is first is Paktim Apaktim, which means Pachan or Apachan. We know that Pitta Dosh is responsible for Pachan or digestion, so is it is also responsible for indigestion in its abnormal state, or when it is not in its normal state. Okay, so Pitta dosh is responsible for pachan, that means digestion, and also apachan means indigestion. For example, ajirna means indigestion, atisar means frequent motions or loose motions, or cubs means constipation. All these condition happens when the pitta dosh is not in its normal state. Next is darshanam adarshanam. Again, dekhna na dekhna. We know that pitta dosh is responsible for the visionary functions in its normal state. So when it's not in its normal state, it will causes a deformity, or it hampers the normal vision functions. Okay, थर्ड वन इज मात्रा मात्रात्वम उष्मनम, शरीर की उष्मा का संतुलन और असंतुलन, दैट मीन्स heat production in the body. Heat production is maintained by pitta in its normal state, and it hampers when the pitta dosh is not in its normal state. And then it will lead to the conditions like jwar means fever, adik garmi means excessive heat production in the body, and shitata means excessive coldness in the body. देन प्रकृति विकृतिर वर्णे, त्वचा का सामान्य या विकृत वर्ण. Again, this is refers to the Bhrajak role of Bhrajak Pitta, which is responsible for the dermal health or maintaining proper color of the skin, maintaining the function or activities of melanocytes. So when Pitta dosh is in its normal state, it maintains the normal color of the skin, and when it is not in its normal state, it will lead to the abnormal color, includes pilapan, that means yellowishness, kalapan means blackishness, or any other color, or paleness in the skin. Next is shaurya bhayam. Okay, so here shaurya bhayam krodha harsham mohan prasadam, all these functions are the mental functions, and we know that pitta dosh is responsible for the mental clarity when it is in its normal state, and it causes a different mental functions when it is not in its normal state. So in normal state, it is responsible for sahas, that means shaurya, that means bravery. Then bhay means the feeling of fear. Then krodh. Okay, when pitta in its normal state, it is responsible for bravery, it is responsible for harsh, that means happiness, it is responsible for prasannata, that means feeling of fulfillness in the in person. And when it is not in its normal state, the same pitta is responsible for bhay, that means we can say fear, feeling of fear. Then krodh, that means anger, and moha, that means delusions. All these functions are performed by pitta only when it is not in its normal state. Ev evamadinam cha aparani indvani dvandvani. So it means that pitta perform all or many different functions like this, which is in pairs. When in normal state it performs that function, and when it's not in a normal state, it performs the exactly opposite of that function, that means dvanda. So these are only some examples with the what the dvandas functions are performed by pitta dosh. Beyond this, there are so many functions that is performed by the pitta dosh, which is in pair. So that's all for today's lecture. I'll see you soon in the next lecture with the remaining part of the Pitta Dosh. Until then, keep reading and don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thank you for watching.